What's up, Trailblazers? Bakosi here. So, patch 3.1 of Honkai Star Rail is coming to a close, and with it, we just closed out one of the biggest story arcs in Honkai Star Rail, the fall of Nikador and Mydei's rise as a new embodiment of strife. However, there are a lot of moving parts here and Amphoreus' story is far from over. There are a lot of mysteries yet to uncover for our Trailblazer and Danhang, if he, ever decides to actually be useful, and I feel like one of the biggest secrets is going to be the true nature of the Black Tide. Could it be the true master behind everything happening on Amphoreus? And what if I told you that our Titans themselves might be its victims? Personally, I feel like the Black Tide is going to be the main antagonist here, but in this video I want to take a step back and simply look at our Titans specifically. They are effectively the main building blocks of Amphoreus. They can be our main allies, they can be our antagonists like Nikador for example, and they can also be victims of circumstance. And while we might not have a whole lot of information about each Titan specifically, like Thanatos, I still feel like talking about them is possible. The Titan you guys are most familiar with is going to be Nikador, the Lance of Fury, the Titan of Strife, or more secretly known as the Titan of Courage and Protection. He is the first Titan we encounter on Amphoreus, and he is also the first one to fall by our hands. His name comes from the Greek Nikador, which basically means conqueror. However, Nikador has not always been the mad Titan we encounter him as. Once he was the leader of Cipher, a great civilization which brought forth many powerful warriors like Mydei for example. Now each Titan, regardless of who we are talking about, is fulfilling a specific role. Thanatos for example is a Titan of Death. Her job is to ferry the souls of the dead over to the afterlife. And just like Thanatos, Nikador has a very specific job as well. Nikador's responsibility was to stop the Black Tide from spreading all over Amphoreus. The Black Tide itself is a mystery so far and we barely know anything about it. There might be a greater entity behind it because one of our earlier dialogues during 3.0 did mention that Nikador encountered something within the abyss. But all we know for now is that prolonged exposure to it will drive you insane. And it is exactly this process which has turned the once noble Titan into the war-crazed beast we know today. However, I also feel like it is necessary to highlight that even though Nikador started to wage war on everything and everyone, he also continued to fight against the Black Tide. This is also the very reason as to why Mydei returned to Cipher at the end of our 3.1 storyline. He took over the mantle of strife and as such all its responsibilities. But there's also a lot more when it comes to Nikador specifically, because his fate is, I would say he is a victim of circumstance and also a victim of human greed. Everyone who knows a little bit more about the past of Cipher and King Eurypon knows what I'm talking about here. But since I want to talk about all the Titans in this video, or two videos because, there's too much for one video, and not just Nikador, we will keep it short for now. I will drop a video specifically about Nikador in the future as well. Now Nikador can be classified as a Titan of Calamity, and there are two more who fall into this group. The second one is Zagreus, the Coin of Whimsy, or more commonly known as the Titan of Trickery. Zagreus is a Titan who we barely know anything about. There are a few tales here and there, and the most common depiction of Zagreus can be found in Spirit Thief Barthalos, someone who has probably annoyed not just me, but you guys as well. Zagreus loves to sow chaos and disorder and is very similar to that one Aeon we all know. One of the more common stories you hear on Amphoreus is of how he once was mistaken for Menestia. He disguised himself as his fellow Titan and people just went along with it. They worshipped him until the charade basically got exposed by Menestia herself. Furthermore, Zagreus is not really interested in fulfilling his duties as a Titan. All these aspects combined result in him not being worshipped by a whole lot of people. But Zagreus doesn't really care about that. For him, spreading chaos among humans and his fellow Titans is what entertains him the most. Lastly, we do know that Zagreus' core flame has been returned to the Vortex of Genesis. This unfortunately means he is no longer alive. But we do know who has taken over his mantle, and we kinda have seen this person already. I'm talking about Cipher, who you might have seen in our initial Amphoreus trailer. Cipher's no longer in Ingame and has effectively abandoned her duties as a flame chaser. She's now pursuing her own interests, which, in accordance to her nature as a god of trickery, is to steal everything in sight. Our last Calamity Titan is one I already mentioned. Death and Annihilation Incarnate, the Hand of Shadows, Thanatos. For me, the most interesting aspect here is that nobody really knows what Thanatos looks like. I used the pronoun she earlier, but Thanatos could very well be a man. We simply don't know. After all, the dead don't speak. Our in-game description of Thanatos perfectly encapsulates the very type of being he or she is. Let us take a look at it. Now, you might be wondering why we are even going to take a look at this, and in my opinion this text here is fairly interesting because on one side it gives you a few hints regarding Castra's true nature, and on the other side it also hints at our upcoming patch when it comes to what is going to happen. So let us read through some of it at least. Thanatos, as mentioned before, is a titan of death and annihilation, and no one knows their true form. For the dead cannot relay legends to the living. It is said that their touch causes flowers to wither, soil to crack, metal to corrode and flesh turn to ashes, everything shrouded in thick dark mist and disintegrating into meaningless fragments. Now we can skip all of this. I kinda already talked about that, it's not that important, but the last part here is important for our upcoming patch. As night falls upon the world, death and darkness become the rulers of Amphoreus. An unknown black tide rises in great waves, swallowing the mortal realm and shattering the balance between the nether realm and the living world. The nether realm in this case here is the world of the dead. The wandering spirits and monsters across many battlefields trapped between life and death seem to signify that even Thanatos, the keeper of death, is powerless before this force. So yeah, we basically don't know anything regarding Thanatos. Even Castris, who presumably is going to take over the mantle of death one day, has never once encountered Thanatos herself. But according to our sneak peek during the end of patch 3.1, Thanatos might very well be the next titan we are going to face. Once again, time will tell. Moving on, we have the three titans of Foundation. They effectively represent fertility. They are the ones who nurture the world of Amphoreus, and two of these titans have already fallen. Their core flame returned to the Vortex of Genesis. Genesis itself is an interesting term here. Genesis, for those who don't know, comes from the Greek language and stands for beginning. As such, whenever a titan falls and we manage to acquire its core flame, we return it to the very beginning of Amphoreus, quite literally. This also puts utmost importance to the Vortex of Genesis itself. Should this place ever fall to the Black Tide, I would say this is basically game over. As mentioned before, two of those titans are no longer alive, and their core flames can now be found in the Vortex of Genesis. The first one is Georius, the titan of Earth. Georius was said to be the most gentle and benevolent titan on Amphoreus. However, when the Black Tide descended, Georius was one of the first titans to fall. His body split asunder, never to reawaken. One of the older tales of Amphorean folklore speaks of his rivalry with Cersis, the Titan of Knowledge, someone who we all have met during patch 3.1. Cersis, as any good scholar, wanted to keep her knowledge to herself, but Georius had different plans. When death and famine raged across Amphoreus, he shared the knowledge of agriculture with the people of the world. Cersis was enraged by this, but didn't really do anything about it, which to me at least tells you enough about her character. Not to mention that she was one of our main helping forces during our 3.1 storyline, right? So for now I would put her into the good camp, but we will see in the future. Furthermore, Georius was also the one who created the Dromas, those giant and gentle dinosaurs you can see in Okama. He was the one who created them, and if I'm not mistaken, you can even ride on them if you approach them. But, as mentioned before, he was also the first one to fall to the Black Tide. Too gentle for his own good, he never really got the chance to fight back. The biggest questions here are obviously going to be, how did his core flame manage to find its way back to the Vortex of Genesis, and who exactly took over his mantle? I did try to look it up in the game and outside of the game, but I just didn't find any sources for it. Maybe someone knows, and if you do, let me know in the comments. Moving on, we have our second dead titan here, Phagosa, the Titan of the Sea. its core flame has already been returned and someone or something has taken over its mantle. This wouldn't be a good lore video without me finding out new stuff after I already recorded everything. So let me give you some extra information here, because we kinda know who has taken over Phagosa's mantle. The only problem here is we kinda haven't met her yet. The person we are talking about is Hysilens. The very Hysilens you sometimes pick as your boon in the new Divergent universe. We barely know anything about her, but what I can tell you is that her name most likely comes from Silenus. In Greek mythology, Silenus was a companion to Dionysus, and Dionysus in our case here is Phagosa. But what exactly did Phagosa do? Its duty was purification and entertainment. Phagosa was able to bless the waters of Amphoreus, which in turn would purify and heal the bodies and souls of those who bathed in it. In itself, I would say a fairly honorable job. But Phagosa was also known as a pleasure-obsessed titan, who saw the world's oceans as his place of alcoholic revelry. His parties were legendary, and I would say that when we meet Phagosa's successor, it is most likely going to be during a giant party. That leaves us with Aquila, a titan who you guys might have already heard about. After all, we did encounter Aquila's potential successor in patch 3.1. I'm talking about none other than Hysilens here, effectively our healer, doctor, priest, whatever you want to call her. Aquila is the Titan of the Sky, and we did get an early sneak peek at her during our initial Amphoreus trailer. They reside above the heavens of Amphoreus and as such are extremely difficult to get to, not just for the Black Tide, but also for us. Generally speaking, Aquila is regarded as a kind and motherly titan, caring about her children on Amphoreus. A warm summer day or a life-giving rain is all credited to her. But if you decide to go beyond the skies of Amphoreus, you better be prepared to face her wrath. And I'm gonna make a little bit of a prediction here. I'm gonna assume Aquila was the one who shot us down during the beginning of our Amphoreus storyline when we crash landed on the planet, but I'm also going to assume that we will eventually go to her by repairing the train. That's most likely, hopefully, what's going to happen. Either way, Aquila is depicted as a many-eyed titan. When its eyes are open, she blesses Amphoreus with day, and when its eyes are closed, night and darkness encompass the world. It is implied here that the reasoning for most of Amphoreus zones being shrouded in darkness can be found in Aquila simply having closed most of her eyes. That could mean that Aquila is close to dying, and I'm going to assume it is in everyone's best interest to keep her remaining eye open. And with that, we have covered half of our Titans. In the next video, we are going to take a look at the Titans of Creation and the Titans of Fate. And obviously, if you played our 3.1 storyline, then you should know that our Titans of Fate, well, fate seems to be kinda ill-fated. For the moment though, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like, and if you have more thoughts of your own, go ahead and drop them in the comments down below. Also, if you want more content for Honkai Star Rail or maybe even Genshin and Zenithal Zero, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and maybe even the bell next to it. But besides that, simply watching the video is enough for me. My name is Fakosi and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.